Grayson Report. Happy Labor Day to all that celebrates. What is up? How was your weekend while we wait for people to trickle in? And what is up? Tammy, Delea, Lex, D Nice, Kimberly, Wendy, Tyrana. Thank you for dropping by. Carol, Lisa Boo with the Project Metal Music says, A up, Project Metal Music. As I scroll down here, Heather, whatever, Dusty, Joanne, Tammy, Chris, what is up? Chris Barber goes, I just finished watching Silent Hill. I have to rewatch that one. I haven't seen that one in a while. How's everyone doing? I'm also streaming, hopefully on Rumble. Hopefully it works this time. And I'm also streaming on Twitch. So if you guys aren't on YouTube, hello, I can only see the comments right now on Twitch and YouTube. So I do apologize if you do comment on Rumble. I can't see them at this moment. Maybe I can. I don't know. How's everyone doing? Chris Barber, YouTube's being pesky with Chris. While we wait for people to trickle in, guys, I'm going to open it up with it. We are now in a new month. August went by super quick. We are now in September. A few movies that we know that are coming out. I know there's the anticipated Beetlejuice. It comes out this Friday. Dusty has been enjoying the company of her new fur baby. That is so awesome. Osiris, what is up? And also, there are a few horror movies, excuse me, that are going to be streaming as well this month. Nerd Report, what is up? So while we wait for people to trickle in, I'll share 9 new horror movies on Netflix, Prime Video, Shudder, and more in September of 2024, so we can keep it spooky. I keep it spooky all year round. Ready to relieve these horrors over and over again. It's here, the final stretch into spooky season, and we're also now a month away from Halloween. That magical time of year when the best streaming services ramp up their horror offerings to lure you in ahead of the major October rush. Yes, September is no slouch when it comes to must-see titles on the docket. Halloween anthology flick Trick or Treat might be a good spot to start to get you primed for the chillier seasons ahead. And as per usual, Shudder is a goldmine of new releases with the likes of Damien McCarthy's Kavit, followed up Oddity, set to drop toward the end of the month, and the slasher spinoff In a Violent Nature, which I am so excited to finally be able to catch. I cannot wait. Also posed to make you drop your lunch. Those in the US can also look forward to the trippy dream space of I Saw the TV Glow as it arrives on Max later this month. Read on for the rest of our best horror movie picks, the streams in the run-up to October. So this is kind of like a thing to prep you for Halloween. I watch horror movies all year round, so it's no different to me. Happy Death Day. It's one of my favorite films. I start streaming today on Peacock, Tubi, if you guys in the UK, and Paramount Plus, and Binge in Australia, with word continuing to mount that we may one day see a final installment to Christopher Landon's time travel horror series. Now the perfect time to dive into where it all started. A mass killer, a Groundhog Day style loop. I was going to say that. It's a Groundhog Day type movie, but horror. And a star-making turn from Jessica Roth. If you've never seen Happy Death Day, then you're in for a treat. Roth steals the show as Tree Gelbman, a college student who finds herself relieving the day of her murder over and over again. In order to stop the loop and solve her own death, she embarks on a journey that involves montages that are equal parts chucklesome and brutal, a concept that's beautifully executed by Landon and gave us a superior sequel in Happy Death Day 2. It is a little campy, but it's done in a great way. I enjoyed this film from beginning to end. If you guys have not checked it out, if you have not checked it out, check it out. It's going to be on Peacock, and it looks like Paramount Plus if you have those. Trick or Treat, one of my favorites. It's streaming on Prime Video and Netflix. While John Carpenter's 1978 classic is considered the masterpiece of all Halloween horror, there's room for other monsters to come and play on All Hallows Eve. Michael Dougherty's anthology pick from the late 2000s is a cult classic of sorts, accruing fans steadily over the years thanks to its willingness to push into heavy gore and grot from the get-go. The wrapped around story includes the movie's pint-sized mascot named Sam, I have him behind me, who wears a sack and a button mask as he trots around town of Warren Valley, ensuring that its citizens are behaving. Elsewhere, folks are stalked by werewolves, slashers, and ghouls in a fun mix of segments starring the likes of Anna Paquin, Dylan Baker, and Brian Cox. This is a perfect start to the spooky season. New Life, I have never seen this one, but it is streaming on Prime Video today, or actually it started yesterday. Everyone likes a good surprise when it comes to their horror, and this directorial debut effort from filmmaker John Rosman is one of them. A comforting, quite emotionally packed movie. New Life opens with Jess Haley Aaron, a bloodied youngster tearing north through Portland in the hopes of reaching Canada. Why is she running? What is she fleeing? While those questions are answered in due time, we meet Elsa Sonia Wagner, a veteran agent tasked with pursuing Jess for reasons unknown. To say more about this sci-fi horror would be to spoil the rewards within, but this one is highly recommended if you like character-driven stories. Watcher, it's going to be released on September 6th on Shudder, Hulu, that's it. Because Netflix in the UK and Prime Video in Australia. If you guys have a VPN, you guys will probably be able to catch it on the UK and Prime Video. Look, there is never a wrong time to rewatch Micah Monroe's filmography, but if the recent release of Longlegs, which is one of 7 new horror movies I previously recommended to stream in July, is what prompted yours, then you're in luck, because 2022 Watcher is here to become one of the best Shudder movies. Monroe stars as Julia, an actress who moves with her boyfriend, Francis Carl Glessman, to Bucharest and soon finds herself pondering the strange man across the street watching her through the window. After she starts to spot the stranger out in the world, she worries he may be a serial killer police have dubbed the Spider. Monroe is compelling and sympathetic, a fearless lead whose attempts to raise concerns are shrugged off by those around her. A beautiful slow burn from writer-director Chloe Okuno, and a knockout ending that probably have you shouting at the screen. I have not seen this one at all. In a Violent Nature, I cannot wait for next week. I've been wanting to see this since I saw the trailer, I think, the beginning of summer. It's going to be released on Shudder. Imagine Friday the 13th, but from Jason's perspective. No, not in an empathetic, oh no, I can't get my machete to really gleam, but more in his literal experience. In a Violent Nature approaches the serial killer who returns from the grave, stick in the vein, opting to lurch instead of run, as the film follows killer Johnny after 2 clueless college kids rouse his dormant corpse. And this is pretty much like a slasher film, probably one of my absolute favorite subgenres when it comes to horror. This unique spin on the tried and true camp slasher tosses aside convention, with writer-director Chris Nash citing the works of Gus Van Sant as pace and mood inspiration. That's not to say nothing happens. This is one hell of a gory, stomach-churning horror that you probably want to watch without snacks. But the piece of resistance is its final nerve-shredding 5 minutes. No wonder a sequel is in development. I don't get grossed out, so I'll probably still have a big thing of popcorn while I'm watching this. Handling the Undead. It's going to be released on September 17th on Hulu and Prime Video if you have a VPN, because it's Prime Video is only in the UK and Australia. This is snuck onto the release schedule with little fanfare, which is unusual considering the success of the author's sombre vampire tome. Let the Right One In. Handling the Undead adapts John Ajvide Lindquist's novel of the same name, with Lindquist sharing scripting duties, and tells a similarly low-key genre tale. Directed by Thea Vistendal. The film, I'm probably butchering the last name, I do apologize. The film unravels on a baking hot summer day in Oslo and follows three families as their long-gone loved ones return to them from beyond the grave. This isn't a showy, gory zombie affair, but instead a slow, tragic examination of grief and how we handle loss that lands with an emotional wallop. Worth the journey, even though it may sting once the credits finally roll. I saw the TV glow. I saw the trailer to this. It looks like it's more of a psychological, what I call Mind F's movies. Comes out September. That's what it looks like to me. I have not seen it. September 20th, and it's going to be on Max. Jane Broom follows We're All Going to the World's Fair with this knockout sophomore effort, a surreal dreamscape story telling a deeper tale of gender identity, friendship, and finding our place in the world. I saw the TV glow rightly earned critical acclaim upon initial release. On the surface, it revolves around two classmates who bond over a TV show. Justice Smith plays Owen, who is introduced to the world of underground teen series The Pink Opaque by his classmate Mandy, played by Bridget Lundy Payne. As the pair connect, the film explores their experiences as transitioning teens through Showbrune's signature visuals, a surreal dream world that's both beautiful and harrowing. Apartment 7A, I got to see the trailer. It looks pretty cool. It is a prequel to Rosemary's Baby. It got me interested just by the trailer. Rosemary's Baby, if you guys are familiar with Rosemary's Baby, it's a psychological horror, like a mind F, as I call them. It's going to be on Paramount Plus September 27th. In an era where sequels to 70s classics like The Exorcist and The Omen are all but guaranteed on the release docket, it can be hard to tell what's likely to rise above straight-to-video dirge. Luckily, Apartment 7A boasts a stellar cast and creative team that posed to make this return to the world of demonic offspring worth the watch. Natalie Erica James, who directed The Superior Relic, is on scripting duties and behind the camera on the prequel to Rosemary's Baby. Set in the very same building years earlier, the story follows Julia Gardner's character, Terry, a dancer who befriends a couple in her apartment building. Yes, it's the Castavets, except this time they're played by Diane Weist and Kevin McNally. Oddity, also releasing on September 27th on Shudder, if you guys have Shudder. Following its premiere out South by Southwest in March, Oddity has emerged as one of the year's most talked about horror hits due to, well, how damn scary it is. If you've seen director Damien McCarthy's serious creepy debut Kivit, then, which I have not, then that should have come as no surprise. While we've no possessed bunny toys this time around, do we have something potentially worse? The movie follows Darcy, played by Carolyn Bracken, a blind clairvoyant grieving the death of her sister, who was brutally murdered. A year later, she pays a visit to her late sister's husband and his new partner, bringing with her a life-size wooden mannequin from her curio shop. Horrors abound, and you might need a cushion or two to hide behind. So just to start off our spooky season, there are a few movies coming in September. Julissa, what's up? Joanne goes, not a scary movie, but I love Rocky Horror Picture Show. Jennifer Marie. Chris is asking, how do you scratch an itch that you can't see, and what do you use to scratch it? You can't scratch it, unfortunately, Chris, because it'll make it worse. So you have to pat it. Like you kind of go like this. I mean, that's what I do. It doesn't completely satisfy it, but it helps. Or like scratch around it sometimes, but don't actually or if you have a mirror and a mirror behind you, but you can't scratch it because you're going to make it worse. Logical Spark, what is up? Matthew, how's it going? And I'm sure there's a plethora of other movies that are going to be there as well. Nerd Report is on Rumble as well. I am streaming. It worked. If you can get it wet, which I don't think you can, but warm water helps itch too as well. But you probably can't get it wet, so that's out of the question. All right, guys. I got one more article. We'll get into the urban legends. I probably talked about a few of them. Few of them I probably haven't. Just thought it was interesting. It was kind of not much going on in the news ghost wise. So I decided to do urban legends. I love folklore. I love urban legends. I love cryptids. I love talking about all that kind of stuff. So I'm looking forward to sharing that article with you. But considering it's Labor Day here in the States as well as Canada, I'm not sure where else they celebrate Labor Day, but here are 6 fun facts before I get into the nitty gritty about Labor Day. I was hoping to find some crazy folklore about Labor Day, but I guess Labor Day is as what you think it is. It's pretty non-spooky. I was trying to find some cool folklore. Well, I didn't think it was going to be spooky, but I thought maybe there's some cool history that I didn't know about. But this one's it's an older article, but I thought, why not? Labor Day facts. The first U.S. Labor Day was celebrated on Tuesday, September 5th. 1882 in New York City, planned by the Central Labor Union. The Labor Day parade of about 10,000 workers took unpaid leave and marched from City Hall past Union Square uptown to 42nd Street and ended in Wendell's Elm Park at 92nd Street and 9th Avenue for a concert, speeches, and a picnic. Oregon was the first to declare Labor Day an official holiday in 1887. Labor Day is considered the unofficial NFL season kickoff. 99.44% of the time, the NFL plays its first official season game the Thursday after Labor Day. I don't follow football, but I do know it does kick that off. The first Waffle House opened on Labor Day in 1955 in Avondale Estates, Georgia. The very first Waffle House opened its doors to the public. What are we celebrating? The contributions and achievement of the 155 million men and women who are in the U.S. workforce. On June 28th of 1894, Congress passed an act making the first Monday in September of each year a legal holiday in District of Columbia and the territories. So there are some fun facts about Delay Lex. What is up about Labor Day? Osiris, exactly. Gotta slap the wound like a tattoo. That exactly. That's why I said you can't scratch it because you're gonna, rip the skin, which kind of comes which is kind of the same thing for anything. So I just pat it. Dusty goes, hopefully all your laborers got a paid holiday today. I know some that don't. The place that I used to work for, did not pay for holidays, so I feel for them. Um, they made you take out of your own time to pay for holidays, so that kind of sucked for a big corporation. Let me see if I can find my article. Give me a second, guys. Oh my god, I did not save it. Hold on. I hate when I do that. Got it. So as I was saying before, I might have talked about some of these urban legends before. I think there's a few trickled in that I haven't. These are 11 urban legends from the darkest depths of creepy folklore. Discover some of history's scariest urban legends and creepiest modern myths like Slenderman, Bloody Mary, Candyman, and the Jersey Devil. Urban legends have existed as long as people have been telling stories. In hushed voices, humans have always warned each other about shadowy, nefarious forces and bloodthirsty creatures. Monsters like the blood-sucking chupacabra of Puerto Rico, which I have done previous stream about, or the horse-faced bat-winged Jersey Devil of the New Jersey Pine Barrens. And though urban legends are usually taken as mere folktales, some of these scary urban legends have been backed up by the terrifying accounts of multiple witnesses and repeated incidents over the course of many years. Take the case of the Mothmen, for example. In 1966, a slew of rural West Virginians, all separated, witnessed a 10-foot tailed red-eyed creature flying between the trees, and when the nearby Silver Bridge collapsed in 1967, killing 46 people, many believed that the Mothman had been trying to kill them. I did speak about the Mothman and the Silver Bridge collapse in a previous stream as well. Perhaps the most horrifying thing about urban legends like these, however, is how they take on a life of their own and inspire real fear or even violence. There are some of the most chilling urban myths ever told and the real life stories that surround them. The urban legend of Slenderman was born online, then inspired real life bloodshed. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Slenderman. There is a movie as well too. I only saw it once, so I can't. Years ago, so I don't really remember it. But there was a real life true crime incident surrounding the Slenderman. Nelly, real quick, Nelly78 is suggesting a ruler to reach the itchy spots. If you could do that, Chris. So the Slender Man is a unique urban legend. Unlike others listed here, Slender Man was born on the internet as a so-called creepypasta or scary urban legend that was built online before it evolved off-screen into real life. The urban myth of Slender Man was created for an innocuous June 2009 Photoshop contest held by a website called Something Awful. Users were challenged to take mundane pictures and make them scary by adding realistic imagery of the paranormal. Inspired by the surreal imaging of H.P. Lovecraft, one contestant named Eric Knudsen designed a tall, thin, eerie figure. Slenderman was born. I did not know that. Knudsen's harmless creativity was quickly co-opted by countless internet users. Mere days later, someone made a horror film with a found footage aesthetic that told of young students being stalked by a slender man-like figure. New images were made, and a spooky mythos that lived offline was created as well. According to the stories that littered creepypasta forums, Slender Man beckoned children into the forest, where he then ordered them to kill in order to become his proxies. What should have remained an internet meme quickly dwelled into real violence. On May 30th, 2014, two 12-year-old girls named Morgan Geyser and Anissa Weir, who believed in the scary urban legend, lured a friend into the woods outside their Milwaukee suburbs where they planned to kill her and leave her as an offering to Slenderman. I don't know what this is. I've seen a documentary on this, and it irks me that these girl at 12 years old, like, what the heck? It's crazy. They stabbed their 12-year-old friend Peyton Leutner 19 times and left her in the woods to die. But Leutner managed to survive. Bleeding from her torso, arms, and legs, she dragged herself to a nearby path and was discovered by a cyclist who called 911. Geyser and Weir were arrested shortly after Leutner was rescued. And the fact that this 12-year-old girl who was stabbed 19 times was able to drag herself out of the forest and get help is amazing. She had an angel on her side, and I don't know if I could have dragged myself out with that many wounds. And she had a strength within her, and that it's just crazy. Geyser and Weir later admitted to police that they had planned the attack for months, beginning in December of 2013. Weir claimed that Geyser proposed the idea, which they both believed would earn them entry into Slender Man's home and position at his proxies. Their belief in the scary urban legend was so complete, and their dedication to please is so powerful that they used a kitchen knife to try and murder their friend that they've known since 4th grade. Gunner Girl, what is up? The state of Wisconsin chose to try the two girls as adults, and Geyser was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and a jury found Weir not criminally responsible because she suffered from a shared delusional disorder. Geyser has since been sentenced to 40 years under institutional care, and all because of an urban myth that began online. The haunting urban legend of the Ya Llorona, the Mexican ghost that mourns for all eternity. I know I spoke about her before. A lot of people probably know about her, and there was also a movie as well. I learned about her in Spanish class in high school, so that's how I found out about her way before the movie even came to fruition. A tragic figure in Mexican folklore, Ya Llorona, or the Weeping Woman, is a ghostly apparition that wears white and wanders the country's watersides in profound grief. Some say she steals children only to drown them in a nearby body of water. The paranormal entity recently garnered renewed attention in the wake of Hollywood's horror, The Curse of Ya Llorona. Though her story is possibly centuries old, there are several origin stories of the urban myth of Ya Llorona, and the earliest recorded ones date back 400 years. Some believe that Ya Llorona is actually just the conflation of two Aztec myths, or perhaps that she is based off of these as well. The Aztecs describe a similar willowy and white figure that was one of 10 goddesses or omens which herald the conquest of Mexico. She was known as Chihacotl. I am butchering this. Chihacotl, or Snake Woman, and was described as a savage beast and an evil omen who walks about at night and cries into the moonlight. Another goddess named Chiotku, or the Jaded Skirted One, oversaw the waters and was said to drown people, and the Aztecs sacrificed children in order to honor her. But there is more modern version to explain where the myth of Ya Llorona came from. D-Nice, thank you for gifting 10 memberships. Welcome, L. Guanzi, Vic, Hermes, Joe Brew, Kelly, Delea Lux, Gunner Girl, Wendy, Tyrana, Cindy, to the Wolfpack Hearts for D-Nice and the new and returning Wolfpack members. Thank you, D-Nice. Curious Potato, what is up? As legend has it, a beautiful young peasant woman named Maria married a wealthy man. The two lived happily and had two children, but Maria's husband became unfaithful. One day, she and her children caught him romantically engaged with another woman by the river. Enraged, Maria threw her children into the river and drowned them. After her anger subsided and reason kicked in, she spent the rest of her life in profound grief, hopelessly wandering the waterside to find her children. The scary urban legend of Ya Llorona could remain just that, where it's not for the chilling accounts of those who claim to have seen her. Patricio Lujan claimed to have her first encounter with the Whaley woman when he was a young boy in 1930s New Mexico. According to Lujan, even his parents spotted the strange woman near their Santa Fe property, drifting toward the local creek in a white dress that covered her tall, slender body. When she reached the water, she disappeared. She just seemed to glide as if having no legs, Lujan recalled. Lujan wasn't the first nor last person to describe such an encounter with the weeping woman, who is said to be drawn to water where she wails for her dead children. The urban legend is popular throughout the southwestern U.S. and Mexico, and many have been convinced to have witnessed it for themselves. The scary urban myth of the Mothman, the 10-foot humanoid with wings. I did speak about him, or it, in a previous stream. November 12th, 1966 marked the first ever report of the elusive Mothman, a creature so bizarre that it can only be considered the stuff of urban myths, but multiple sightings of the monster that year challenged the notion that it existed only in the imagination. On the fall day in 1966, a Clendenin, West Virginia gravedigger claimed to have seen an unsettling creature that looked like a brown human being soaring over his head and moving from tree to tree at rapid speeds. 3 days later, four people driving through the nearby town of Point Pleasant saw a gray winged entity 7 feet tall standing in front of their car. Roger Scarberry and Steve Mallet told the Point Pleasant Register that the creature had bright red eyes and a wingspan of 10 feet. All the witnesses commented on the creature's speed. One of them claimed that it fled at up to 100 miles per hour and seemed to dislike the car's blinding headlights. The witness also claimed that the being chased their vehicle to the outskirts of town before vanishing into a nearby field. If I had seen it while by myself, I would have said anything. I wouldn't have said anything, said Scarberry at the time, but there were four of us who saw it. The following year saw an ominous increase in sightings across the state of West Virginia. The Gettysburg Times reported on the elusive creature 8 times within the first 3 days of the gravedigger's initial report, which included 2 firefighters describing a very large bird with large red eyes. In another reported sighting, Salem, West Virginia residents Newell Patrid claimed he spotted 2 red eyes staring back at him after his television displayed bizarre patterns, and he went outside to investigate a strange noise. That was the same night that his dog vanished. But there are, of course, skeptics. West Virginia University professor of wildlife biography, Dr. Robert L. Smith, dismissed the urban legend as a misidentification of the small child. Oh my God, I cannot read today. Of the sandhill crane bird. Others are convinced the urban legend was intentionally spread by a committed prankster. There are also those who believe that the Mothman was a harbinger of doom, an idea that was only reinforced when on December 15th, 1967, Point Pleasant's Silver Bridge collapsed. Cars and pedestrians were plunged into the icy Ohio River waters below, and 46 people died. Author John Keel forever linked the bridge collapse with the Mothman sighting in his 1975 book, The Mothman Prophecies, which was later adapted into a film of the same name. I have to watch that movie. I have not seen that movie. Point Pleasant hasn't shilled away from the eerie urban legend. To the contrary, the town created a historical museum of the scary urban legend and constructed a 12-foot tall chrome polished statue of the beast. To this day, they celebrate the Mothman annually with a festival. That is so cool. Curious Potato goes, sandhill cranes are huge. So there's also Mothman that was spotted in Chicago as well. The scary urban legend of the blood-sucking chupacabra that preys on goats. I had talked about the chupacabra as well. It is the size of a small bear with scaly skin, a spiked tail, and it drinks the blood of livestock across the Americas. At least that's how the chupacabra or goat sucker has been described since 1995. A staple in Puerto Rican folklore, the chupacabra has been said to feed on everything from chickens and sheep to rabbits and dogs. While skeptics are quick to dismiss the chupacabra as an urban legend, many claim to have lost their farm animals to the strange beast and have found the inexplicable bloodless corpses of these animals to prove it. One of the earliest recorded sightings of the chupacabra happened in the small town of Mocha in 1975, or Maca, when livestock were found completely drained of their blood with just a few small puncture wounds found in their chest. Many suspected that a local satanic cult was responsible, as more farms reported dead animals all bled dry through a series of small circular incisions. Then in 1995, Madeline Tolentino watched from a window in her Canovanas, Puerto Rico home as a bipedal creature hopped about her property. She said it reeked of sulfur. Others corroborated her description, but added that the creature they'd seen was hairless. That same year, 8 sheep were discovered dead, each with 3 puncture wounds in the chest and reportedly completely drained of blood. As many as 150 farm animals and pets were reportedly killed in this manner in Tolentino's town that year, but the carnage did not end there. Sightings continued into the modern day and across the world. In October and December of 2018, there came many reports of suspected chupacabra attacks in Manipur, India. And in October of 2019, a man named Mundo Ovini allegedly recorded an attack on chickens in the Ceburuquilo sector of Lars, Puerto Rico. I was, of course, initially skeptical of the creature's existence, said American writer Benjamin Radford. At the same time, I was mindful that new animals have yet to be discovered. I didn't want to just debunk or dismiss it. If the chupacabra is real, I wanted to find it. Radford thus embarked on a years-long quest to find or disprove the existence of the chupacabra. However, he eventually came to conclude that the urban legend was merely spurred by anti-U.S. sentiments within Puerto Rico. He believed that locals feared the Americans had set up a top-secret experimentation program in the El Yunque rainforest, unleashing a hairless beast onto them. There was also The Matter of Species, a sci-fi horror film about an alien-human hybrid that ravaged the land and feasted on blood. Not only was the film partially filmed in Puerto Rico, but Tolentino herself had seen it the very same year that she reported her chupacabra sighting. It's all there, said Radford. She sees the movie, then later she sees something she mistakes for a monster. Nonetheless, reports of chupacabras across the U.S. continue into the 2000s. Farmers found bodies of hairless, four-legged creatures with burnt-looking skin, but authorities identified these creatures as dogs with sarcoptic mange, which rendered them patchy, scaly, and largely hairless. Despite the explanation, the scary urban legend has yet to be fully dismissed. Patrick goes, it's definitely a weird story. Delalux goes, I can't ever get over bloodsuckers. Curious Potato goes, most were dogs with mange. Joanne is asking, has anyone seen a hummingbird moth? I have not. Maybe I have. I just don't know what it looks like. Or the name. The urban myth of the Mapinguri that could be an extinct creature come to life. Brazilian folklore has described the Mapinguri, the Mapingari, as a monstrous entity that dwells deep within the Amazon rainforest. Depiction of the mythical beast have varied from a hairy humanoid Cyclops that walks on two legs to something closer to a giant ground sloth that has been extinct for thousands of years. Here's a depiction or artist rendering of what the Mapingari might have looked like. Skeptics claim that the best beast is but an urban legend, but a mention of the Mapingari to those who live around the Amazon is sure to cause shivers. Nearly every native tribe in the Amazon has its own version of the beast. Even tribes that haven't encountered each other have similar descriptions of the Mapingari, which translates to the roaring animal or the fetid beast. The being is said to be a bipedal, 7 feet tall with long curly claws. Others have claimed that the creature has a gaping mouth on its stomach that is large enough to feast on anything it encounters. These tales have led scientists on countless expeditions to find it. While the endeavor has remained fruitless, the former director of research at the Gold Institute in Belém, David Oren, has a theory. It is quite clear to me that the legend of the Mapingari is based on a human contact with the last of the ground sloths thousands of years ago, he said. We know that extinct species can survive as legends for hundreds of years, but whether such an animal still exists or not is another question, one we can't answer. The elephant-sized prehistoric sloth is known as a megatherium, and it lived in South America for nearly 5.3 million years until it went mysteriously extinct at the end of the Pleistocene era. Scientists have found fossils of the giant ground sloth from 11,000 years ago, suggesting it cohabitated with humans. It is said to have emitted a foul stench and fed on large animals like cattle with ease, but some believe the creature lives on Lucas Caritiana of the Caritiana tribe in Brazil is adamant that his son encountered one in the forest. While the young man escaped, the Mapingari left the area in ruins as if a boulder had rolled through and knocked down all the trees and vines. Reports like Caritiana's remain a curious and frustrating anomaly. Either scientists are correct and the urban myth exists as the remnants of prehistoric man imagination, or the ravenous beast isn't extinct and has survived for millennia, secretly dwelling in the Amazon to this day. The urban legend of Bloody Mary comes from a real woman with a grisly history. I've spoke about her as well. Virtually every young child raised in the Western world is familiar with the scary urban legend of Bloody Mary. Myth has it that repeating the name Bloody Mary in a cramped closet or into the mirror of a dark bathroom will summon the vengeful spirit of a real woman, Queen Mary the First of England. Some are adamant that Mary's name must be uttered 13 times, whereas others claim 3 times will suffice. Some claim that her spirit appears as a woman holding a dead baby, while others insist that she will come after you or your own children. Patrick Barron saying, I think it's just a giant anteater that people are seeing. It could be. Patrick goes, Barry, you ain't that scary. But the terrifying urban legend is rooted in medieval history and begins with the birth of the first Queen Regent of England, Queen Mary I, the eldest surviving child of King Henry VIII. Mary did not fulfill her father's desperate lifelong hope for a male heir. She was thus ignored by him and declared illegitimate by Parliament. Little did Henry VIII know that his DNA is the one that determines the sex of the baby, if I'm not mistaken, and he was blaming the women for it. Her life was plagued by pain in addition to isolation, according to Giovanni Micheli, the Venetian ambassador to her court. Mary experienced terrible menstrual pains and irregularity in her cycles, as well as deep bouts of depression. Nonetheless, Mary managed to take the throne at 37 after marrying Philip of Spain and became pregnant with his child. But when her due date came and a baby didn't, the country was in shock. Mary had appeared pregnant, but after her due date came and went, her pregnant belly disappeared as well. The inexplicable false pregnancy coincided with Mary having just signed an act into law known as the Marian persecutions, in accordance of which 240 men and 60 women were burned at the stake for being Protestants. The despondent monarch came to believe that she had been punished by God for her actions and died childless at the age of 42. Besides the sad story of the real Bloody Mary of England, there are other more paranormal tales that inspired the scary urban legend of Bloody Mary. Perhaps most famous is the tale of a witch named Mary who was said to have been executed for studying black magic. According to the legend, Mary would appear in a mirror during divining rituals in medieval times to seek vengeance. Some believe the ethereal mirror witch kills her summoner upon arrival, while others claim that she drags her victims through the reflective portal into her world. Verifying the legend of Bloody Mary, however, is easy enough. Simply look into the mirror and chant her name if you dare. Which I have never done because as a kid, I was like, hell no. I was like, nope, I am not doing that. I don't care if it's fake or not. She is not coming through the mirror and taking me into the mirror with her. The scary urban legend of Candyman has horrifying roots in history, though the urban legend of Candyman largely begins and ends with the eponymous 1992 horror film, which is one of my favorite one of my favorite films growing up. Tony Todd, oh my god, like every time he comes on screen, his voice is it doesn't matter what character he plays. He tends to play creepy characters though, but it's his voice. He has like that creepy commanding voice. Like he could be a teacher in a dream sequence in a horror film and still be freaky, just by him speaking. It has a terrifying basis in history. The urban legend that the film is based on is said to be inspired by Chicago's inner city violence, segregation laws, American slavery, and systematic racism. The film was also based on Clive Barker's 1981 short story, The Forbidden, in which Candyman was originally depicted as a white man dressed in a patchwork outfit. Set in the slums of Liverpool, England, the story centers on a young woman studying graffiti who finds herself haunted by a deadly figure. I have not read that book. I need to check that one out. The same year that Barker's story was published, the Cabrini Green housing projects in Chicago recorded 11 murders and 37 murders by gunfire. Um, if you guys are familiar with what is it, Break-In and with Shabadoo, he grew up because I was recently watching a bio about him, and he mentions that he grew up at Cabrini Green, and I was like, oh my god, that's where Candyman. All in the span of 3 months, the combination of Barker's short story and Americans' bloody racist climate all worked to inspire the scary urban legend behind the 1992 film of the same name. In the film, there is an urban myth that revolved around a former slave named Daniel Robotelli, a successful shoe manufacturer. Robotelli eventually became a respectable painter and was commissioned to paint a portrait of a white woman named Carolyn Sullivan. The pair fell in love and Sullivan became pregnant out of wedlock. An enraged white mob subsequently hacked Robotelli's right hand off, smeared it in honey, and let a swarm of killer bees sting him to death. But Robotelli returned as an angry ghost and vowed to kill anyone who uttered the name Candyman 5 times into a mirror. He'd appeared behind them and kill them with one stroke of a hook fixed to his hand. The film took cues from Chicago's violent realities throughout the 80s and was shot in Chicago at the Cabrini Green Project specifically. In fact, one particularly chilling murder at the Cabrini Green Project inspired Candyman the movie. On April 22nd of 1987, a mentally ill Chiconian named Ruthie Mae McCoy dialed 911 begging for help, claiming that somebody was trying to invade her home through the bathroom mirror. Despite neighbors reporting gunshots thereafter, it took police 2 days to report to the scene, where they found McCoy shot to death in a hole in her bathroom wall. The urban myth of Candyman is a disturbing example of how the horrors of reality conspire fables. The urban myth of England's phantom social worker who steals vulnerable children. This one's a new one for me. I've never heard of this one. The most upsetting urban myths typically involve children in England's phantom social worker phenomenon is a prime example. The legend begins in the 1990s when British newspapers started reporting an unidentified men posing as social workers and taking children from their homes for an evaluation. According to legend, one man who would be accompanied by several women would masquerade as a social worker. He would enter and inspect homes for safety and examine children for signs of abuse and then whisk the children away, never to be seen again. The urban myths spawned such hysteria that it spurred local law enforcement in South Yorkshire to create a task force to investigate the claim in 1990. The so-called Operation Childcare received more than 250 reports of the type of abduction as a result, though only 2 proved to be valid. One of those was the report of Anne Weil, who claimed that a woman pretending to be a social worker suddenly appeared at her home after her 20-month-old son had been hospitalized for asthma. The woman had no identification and was accompanied by a man waiting outside. Suspicious, Weil demanded more information. The strange woman placed her son's medical records on the table, but after the couple left, Weil was able to confirm that they weren't social workers at all. Despite the chilling account, in its 4 years as an active task force, Operation Childcare didn't make a single arrest. Instead, authorities blamed the press for hyping a small, legitimate problem into a large-scale paranoia that then spawned an urban legend. Nonetheless, there were at least 2 groups of individuals who abducted children by posing as social workers. Authorities believe that these were vigilantes who believed that it was their duty to protect children from abuse in the wake of a major child abuse scandal in the 80s. That scandal involved pediatrician Marietta Higgs and Jeffrey Watt. The 2 doctors had developed a diagnostic test to detect sexual abuse in children, which involved probing the area around a child's anus. Naturally, this traumatized more subjects than it saved. Dozens of children were referred to a Middleborough hospital as a result, with a record 24 children being admitted in one day. In total, they had removed 121 children from their homes and incorrectly identified 94 of them as abuse victims. It's no wonder that in 1991, a year after the Phantom Social Worker scare, that legislation implemented the Children's Act, which enforced strict regulations for social workers. At least this urban myth spawned positive real-life action. Dusty Lane, thank you for your super chat. Hearts for Dusty. Let's give Lisa some holiday pay. Thank you, Dusty. Hearts for Dusty, guys. Thank you, Dusty. I appreciate that. Julissa goes, yeah, I never knew the inspiration for that movie. Curious Potato goes, Tony Todd is so cool. Chris Barber goes, it's been forever since I've seen Candyman. Lisa Boo goes, these all sound interesting. And Poor Kids. Yeah, I've never heard of that one. That one's crazy. About the Phantom Social Worker. That's crazy. Joanne goes, there's always crazy people in every position. Yes. Believe it or not, sad but true. The urban myth of the infamous Jersey Devil. The first time I heard about the Jersey Devil was in the X-Files. I believe there's an episode called Jersey Devil. New Jersey is home to far more frightening elements than its record number of shopping malls, including a creature described as a kangaroo-like demon that was designated in 1938 as the country's only state demon. Meet the Jersey Devil, the legend of which has kept New Jersey residents awake at night for more than 300 years. The beast has many descriptions, ranging from a horse-faced demon with bat wings to a dog-headed entity with the talons of a dragon. As one of the America's oldest urban myths, the origin of the legend of the Jersey Devil vary. What is inarguably, however, is that the urban myth first appeared in the Jersey Pine Barrens. Some say that the Jersey Devil, also called the Leeds Devil, dates back to 1735 when a poor woman named Mother Leeds learned that she was pregnant with her 13th child. Despite Mother Leeds' curse that the unborn child, and when she gave birth 9 months later, a winged creature slithered out of her body and escaped through the chimney. Some versions of the story cast Mother Leeds as a witch who was impregnated by the devil on purpose. Early versions of the urban myth described the Jersey Devil sweeping across the land, killing local children. The myth only grew stronger over time, and even Emperor Napoleon's older brother, Joseph, once reported a sighting in New Jersey in 1820. Then, in 1840, the mysterious killing of numerous livestock were attributed to the elusive beast. Newspapers around New Jersey began reporting on a plethora of sightings in 1909 when people saw mysterious footprints on the ground, strange shadows that fell across their windows, and unidentified and decomposed carcasses in the woods. Terrified citizens closed schools and worked for a week in January of the year, and the Jersey Devil became the creature's official name. From a Greenwich, New Jersey farmer who shot at a mysterious creature matching the Jersey Devil's description in 1925 to a group of Gibson boys spotting the beast in the woods in 1951, it seemed as though the entity has survived for centuries. And the 1960 reward of $10,000 on behalf of Camden merchants for anyone managing to capture the beast has yet to be claimed. Tico Tits, what is up? The tale of Edward Mondrake and the deformity that morphed a myth. I've seen this article. I have yet. I didn't talk about it, but I've seen it. Um, Edward Mondrake was said to be a man doomed with a second face on the back of his head. His disturbing situation was popularized by George Gould and Walter Pyle in a 1896 science textbook, but as it turns out, Mordrake's story is complete fabrication turned urban legend. A story published on December 8th of 1895 in the Boston Sunday Post, titled The Wonders of Modern Society, described how a man named Edward Mordrake had a second female face as lovely as a dream, hideous as a devil on the back of his head. The face would whisper such things as they only speak of in hell to poor Mordrake a night, and sneered at him whenever he cried. Driven insane by the face, Mordrake was said to have taken his own life at 23 years of age. His note begged for the face to be destroyed, lest it continues to its dreadful whispering in my grave. Then Gould and Pyle popularized the tragic tale in their Anomalies and Curiosities of Medicine, which was published the following year. Mordrake's story became fodder for countless publications and begot callous writing about physical deformities and weird wonders of the world. While craniofacial duplication is a real biological phenomenon, those born with an extra face rarely live long, and none are capable of independent speech, as there's only one brain. It was only in 2015 that the Museum of Hoaxes uncovered that the original Boston Sunday Post article about Mordrake was actually written by a science fiction author and was otherwise utterly baseless. Though the writer's predilection for genre doesn't disprove the claims in his article, the sources he employed, which weren't later verified diligently enough by Gould and Pyle, certainly seem to. The Post article cited the Royal Scientific Society as one of the most substantial sources, but this organization didn't exist. Furthermore, the writer's additional reference to the fish woman of Lincoln, a mermaid-type creature, and the Norfolk spider, a human head with 6 legs, were entirely fabricated. No literary or scientific database yielded anything remotely similar to the creatures. Nonetheless, the urban myth of the two-faced Edward Mordrake has endured. It was most recently chronicled in an episode of the television show American Horror Story to chilling effect. Perhaps what is most ghastly about the urban legend is how quickly an unfounded narrative can take hold and reverberate in popular consciousness for centuries. Chris goes, I love weird stories. Curious Potato goes, great stories. The urban legend of the shape-shifting Navajo skinwalker. The Navajo skinwalker is described as a humanoid shapeshifter that can transform into a four-legged beast and terrorize families in the American Southwest. While it sounds like the stuff of urban legends, the skinwalker has deep roots in Native American lore. Mainstream America first heard about these entities in 1996 when the Deseret News published an article on a Utah family's harrowing experience with a ferocious beast that ravaged its cattle. Only 18 months after moving on to their new ranch, Terry Sherman, the father of the family, spotted the creature for the first time. Sherman claimed the beast was 3 times bigger than a wolf with glowing red eyes. Perhaps most disturbingly, it appeared unfazed when he shot at it. The Shermans moved out shortly after the incident, and several new owners of the ranch reported similar encounters. Today, that property is known as Skinwalker Ranch and is believed to be a curious hub of paranormal activity. I believe they also feel like it's also there's extraterrestrial activity there as well. According to the Navajo English Dictionary, a skinwalker was translated from the Navajo Yi Naloshi, which literally means by means of it. It goes on all fours. Navajo folklore describe a variety of these creatures, and the Pueblo, Apache, and Hopi people all have their own origin stories for such beasts. Some traditions call that skinwalkers are born of Navajo medicine men who initially benevolent abused their magic for personal gain. Bestowed with mythical powers of evil, these tribesmen can then transform into any animal or person of their choosing, but a ravenous bloodlust will follow their newfound ability. They're reportedly near impossible to kill unless with a knife or bullet that was dipped in white ash. The Navajo, meanwhile, are vehemently opposed to discussing the creature with outsiders and even amongst their own. Since the inexplicable sightings of the Sherman's Ranch, the area has become a purported hotbed of paranormal activity. On March 12th, 1997, biochemist Dr. Colm Keller reportedly spotted a skinwalker on the property, perched 20 feet off the ground and about 50 feet away from him. Keller said it was hard to see clearly, but that the creature was undoubtedly non-human. The large creature lay motionless, almost casually in the tree. He later wrote the only indication of the beast's presence was the penetrating yellow light of the unblinking eyes as they stared fixedly back into the light. Whether or not skinwalkers are indeed real, there will perhaps always appear to be elusive creatures with qualities science has yet to assess. What is clear, however, is that the urban myths of creatures like these continue to memorize people from all walks of life and tend to take on a terrifying life of their own. There's also a lot of TikTok videos. I'm sure you guys have come across it of people claiming animals coming to their door, skinwalkers. Um, I'm very skeptical when it comes to TikTok because there's too many people on there that want to be TikTok famous. So I'm like, okay, they're claiming that their dog is a skinwalker on TikTok. So it's like, I mean, I've never encountered one, but if I do, I'll let you guys know. So guys, what did you think of those urban legends? Curious people, that's what I thought when Curious Potato is asking, aren't skinwalkers werewolves? That's what I thought at first. I always thought they were wolves. But the more that I read about them, I guess they are. I read somewhere too, they're shapeshifters. So it's a possibility that they could um be a wolf, but I always assumed they were werewolves because all the movies I saw, like there's a movie called Skinwalkers and it's about werewolves. So I had always thought skinwalkers were about werewolves, but by reading about them I found out that no, that's not what they are, but they are um shapeshifters, so it's a possibility. D Nice goes, yeah, TikTok is a weird place. It is. Delea Lex goes, they take any form through possession. So they very well may take a form of a wolf. Panda Bear, what's up? They can shapeshift into anything. But I find it fascinating that even the Native Americans won't tell outsiders the story. So I feel like that's kind of cool about that. There's kind of there's a mystery when it comes to that. Hold on, guys. Let me get to an article that I shared last the previous stream. I didn't get to finish. So I'm going to finish. It was about mythical creatures. It kind of goes with the urban legends. Where I spoke about the kraken, the basilisk. D Nice goes talk about skinwalkers. I always want to rewatch the film. I have to see those because I haven't seen those in a long time. I got to catch on Max. There's a film by, if you're a fan of M. Night Shyamalan, his daughter actually has a film. It's called The Watchers. It's on Max now if you guys want to catch it. It's okay. It's kind of interesting concept, but she doesn't have her father's how do we say this? She's a little different filmmaking from her father, in other words. But it is on Max, so if you guys want to watch it and you have Max, there is The Watcher. It's more sci-fi than it is horrific horror. And too, I forgot, as always, Skeleduck is somewhere in this background. If you guys do not know who or what Skeleduck is, he is pictured in the upper right hand corner. I hide him every stream. D Nice came up with that idea, so I decided to do that. So he's somewhere in this. I think he was. I kind of don't see him now, so maybe he's not anymore. But he was somewhere in this background. So just remind me before the end of the stream and I'll show you where I put him. Because I think something moved. So now you can't see him, but I'll show him at the end of the stream. So I'll probably give you this one this time around. Because he was visible at the beginning of the stream. He's still, technically he's still in the stream, even if he's hiding behind something. So, but if you could guess near the location of where he's at, then I'll give it to you. Because I think something moved and now he's covered. I do apologize for that, and I can't get up and fix it because it'll give it away. Love when that happens. So these are mythical creatures. I had read a couple at the beginning of at the end of last Saturday's stream. So if you guys have not checked out Saturday's stream, check it out. So this is the Grootsling, the fearsome serpent of South African legend. According to a South African legend, the great and terrible Grootsling was one of the first creatures the gods ever made. When man was nothing more than a primordial ooze wanting to be formed, the gods created a massive, powerful serpent, larger than an elephant and smarter than any man. It was a mistake. The gods were new to the art of creating life, and they didn't yet understand the dangers of making something as powerful as this great snake that could coil its body around any creature and crush the light out life out of it in seconds. They tried to correct it. The gods tried to exterminate every Groot slaying. I don't think I've ever heard of a Groot slaying. How about you guys? That lived. They split the powers of the Groot slaying and dispersed them across two species, the elephant and the snake. But one Groot slaying managed to escape. She became the mother of a whole species of mythological creatures that the gods themselves called a deadly error. When the first Europeans moved into the Congo, the natives told them that the Groot slaying still hid in the recesses of their lands. These mythological creatures lived in bottomless pits and great caves that extended 50 miles across. Most Groot slaying clung onto hoards of glittering diamonds and guarded them with greed and envy. Perhaps natives used the myth of the Groot slaying to ward off colonizers. Today, the best known Groot slaying, it said, hides in a cave in Reichsveld, South Africa. There it lies in wait for anyone foolish enough to stumble onto its domain and passes the time by lurking in elephants, crushing them, and swallowing them whole, making this one of history's most terrifying mythical creatures. Joanne goes, of course they told them that. The mythical creature, the Hydra. So here's a drawing. A Hydra as drawn for a Dungeon and Dragons bestiary of mythological creatures and monsters. As horrifying as the many-headed mythological Hydra could be, most would never live long enough to see it. Every drop of blood coursing through its body was filled with so much venom that it breathed poison. A noxious air filled the lair, and anyone who inhaled it would fill their lungs with an acid that ate them from the inside out. Should anyone make it through the deadly air in the lair, they then would find themselves staring into the eyes of an enormous dragon-like creature with 9 heads. No matter what anyone did, the Hydra could never be killed. If anyone managed to remove one of this mythological creature's heads, 2 more would grow in its place. The only way to prevent the regrowth of a head was to shear it with a flame, but even then, its final head was completely immortal. The Hydra could never die. Its heads were snake-like, so much so that some believed it was a manifestation of early man's fears of snakes. Some early Roman writers claim that the mythological creature started off as a single-headed snake whose body did regrow but evolved into the unkillable beast we know today from the story of Hercules. Slaughtering the Hydra was the second trial of Hercules. He had his nephew Iolaus join him using a firebrand of categorized its severed necks and keep them from growing back. When all that was left was its original immortal head, he used a magical sword gifted to him by the goddess Athena to chop it off. Even then, though the head still withered and shrieked, it refused to die even after severed from its body. All Hercules could do was bury it under a massive boulder, leaving it crushed and trapped, but still alive for all of eternity. D Dice goes, I was just watching Captain America, First Avenger. Hail Hydra. Joanne goes, come to think of it, all these monster myths are to control villages, groups of people, etc. Yeah, true. Yes. Of course, they would tell people that. The Sphinx, the myth of the Sphinx is one of the oldest of some versions of its legend, date back as 9,500 BC. It's best known, though, from the great statues of Egypt. There is usually a lion with a man's head, often adorned with a pharaoh's crown. To the Egyptians, these mythological creatures were great and powerful beasts. The Egyptians also they loved cats as well. Often their faces would be carved in the likeness of a king, most likely as a way to show their rulers as half lion, half man deities. When the Greek adopted the idea of the sphinx, though they envisioned them as something evil, they gave them serpent tails and wings and believed them cruel, intelligent beasts that love to toy with their victims before slaughtering them and devouring them whole. Today, the best known story about these mythological creatures come from the tale of Oedipus. I am butchering that. Oedipus. On his journey to Thebes, Oedipus was accosted by a sphinx who asked him the famous riddle: what walks some 4 feet in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, and 3 at night? She was so sure he would fail and so sure that she would get to kill him that when Oedipus correctly answered man, the sphinx killed herself in despair. For the sphinx, it was better to die than to live a life without torment. It is not certain what exactly the sphinx symbolizes. Some believe the sphinx was the Egyptian a talisman of great power and entryway into the afterlife, perhaps combined with the Greek notion that the Sphinx could be defeated only by wit, suggests that this mythological creature represents how humans try all the time to outsmart and escape death. The Pulgasari. He appears in a 1985 North Korean propaganda film. North Korea has immortalized the Pulgasari as the star of their greatest propaganda film. Under the orders of Kim Jong-il, their government kidnapped 2 Korean directors to make the film a Godzilla-like monster movie with a communist message. In the original legend, the Pulgasari was created by a Buddhist monk. When an evil governor ordered every Buddhist monk be sent to prison, he hid in the sister's wall closet to pass the time in hiding. He made a little creature out of steamed rice grains. To his shock, it came to life, and seeing it hungry, the kindly monk fed it the only thing he could find, steel needles. So this is a poster for the North Korean propaganda film Pulgasari, released in 1985. It does look like a Godzilla type like well, I mean, yeah, it does. It reminds me of Godzilla. The Pulgasari grew with every needle he ate. Soon he was larger than the building itself, but still hungry and still devouring every piece of metal he could find. He terrorized the city. His misshapen, monstrous body, it said, looked like a gigantic, stretched out bear. Its ears and nose flopping down like an elephant's. Sharp pointed needles poked through every inch of his skin. The army moved to destroy it, but no sword and no number of arrows could stop this monster. They dubbed it, or Bukisha, Chinese for can't be killed. In time, that name devolved into Bulgasol and eventually Pulgasari. Desperate, the evil governor had his men set the great monster on fire. Even then, it didn't die. The beast simply ran around, his body aflamed, and ignited everything he touched until the city had been destroyed. The Pulgasari, though, isn't just a creation of the North Korean propaganda team. He's one of the classic mythological creatures from the annals of Korean history, one that ironically warns against the danger of corrupt totalitarians. So, guys, what do you think of those mythical creatures? I have never heard of the Pulgasari, but it does remind me of Godzilla. Like, it belongs in a Godzilla film. Tico Tits goes, the Oedipus complex, something about gouging his head out. Tico Tits also says, didn't Oedipus F his mom? Who else did that? There's someone else that did that. I don't know if he did because I don't know much about him, but there's another one that did that. Another Greek god that did that. D Nice goes, I think Godzilla will find his way into each stream from now on, and I am here for it. Dusty goes, I love everything about the Egyptians. I truly believe they were visited by astro aliens and aided them with the pyramids. Curious Potato goes, great rock track by Blue oyster cult. Oh, 1-1. Also, I want to thank D Nice for your PayPal. Hearts for D Nice, and thank you, Jennifer Marie, for your Cash App. Happy Labor Day. Hearts for Jennifer Marie and D Nice. Thank you, ladies. I'm going to try to there you go. That's my part. Thank you, ladies. I'm going to perfect it. Hearts for Jennifer Marie and D Nice. I may look into for a future stream for Egyptian folklore. I don't think I've ever like really dived into that, and now I'm kind of, that sounds kind of cool. So I'm going down a little dinosaur route because we always talk about Godzilla here. I don't consider him a dinosaur, but I found this cool article. It says, according to paleontologists, this was the most dangerous place in Earth history. So if we ever create time travel, do not go back to this place, according to paleontologists. Welcome to the land before time, where expert says a human time traveler would not last very long. A group of international paleontologists claim to have discovered the most dangerous time and place on the planet. Based on their exhaustive search or research, the one place you wouldn't want to visit was the Sahara 100 million years ago. According to CNET, Dr. Nazar Ibrahim of the University of Detroit Mercy led the study and explained that a human time traveler would not last very long in that area. With colossal reptiles swooping through the skies and gigantic crocodile-like beasts roaming the landscape, his point is well taken. Published in Zookeys, the team said it was the most comprehensive piece of work of fossil vertebrates from the Sahara in almost a century. The research included decades worth of fossil records from museums around the world and expedition notes of Africa's Kem Formation. The Kem Formation is an assortment of Cretaceous rocks formations in Morocco. The answers mined from them were described by the answers mined from them were described by the University of Portsmouth as the first detailed and fully illustrated account of the fossil-rich escarpment. In terms of company, a time traveler would be met by three of the largest predatory dinosaurs on record: the saber-toothed Carcharodontosaurus. I butchering that. The saber-toothed Carcharodontosaurus had teeth up to 8 inches long and measured around 26 feet. The Deltadromeus, a member of the Velociraptor family, was just as long. Of course, another hurdle would be surviving the enormous reptiles, the Pterosaurus flying overhead, the crocodile-like hunter scurrying about, and terrifying aquatic threats lurking in the vast river system. I was going to say you could take some pew-pews with you, but then you would be changing history. So yeah, that does make sense that it would be a dangerous place, because if you destroy one of these creatures, you would change history if you went back into time and cause a different timeline, as in Flashpoint. Professor David Martill of the University of Portsmouth explained there was an abundant supply of the latter. This place was filled with absolutely enormous fish, including a giant coelacanths and lungfish, he said. I'm going to be butchering these names. I do apologize in advance. The coelacanth, for example, is probably 4 or even 5 times larger than today's. Or coelacanth. There's an enormous freshwater saw shark called the Oncopretis, with the most fearsome of rostral teeth. They are like barbed daggers, but beautifully shiny. The Kem formation contains an unusually high amount of fossils for large carnivores and paints a clearer picture of Africa's diversity than any other spot on the continent. From the aquatic and aerial threats described above to turtles, fish, and even plants, the Kem Formation is a virtual gold mine for experts like Dr. Ibrahim. According to Eureka Alert, it's comprised of two distinct formations known as the Gara Ba and the Dora. It's also called the Kem Group or the Kem Beds. As conveyed in the remarkable study itself, the enlightening chuck of prehistoric rock essentially provides a window into Africa's age of dinosaurs. More importantly, of course, it classifies or clarifies just how impossible it would have been for anyone to survive that place and a period in time. In terms of academia, it's fascinating to note that this has been the first substantial piece of research on fossil vertebrates in the Sahara since 1936, when the famous German paleontologist Ernest Frere Stormer von Reichenbach published his study. Hopefully, the next gap in thorough analysis of these incredible fossils will be shorter than the last one. That was kind of cool. Jennifer Marie goes, yes, all these dino names are now Dave, Steve, Bob, Barbara, Stella. And D Nice was like, why couldn't they just name something like Dave? I agree. Joanne goes, go back with lots of. I thought of that, but like I was saying, Joanne, we would change history. Because I was just thinking that we could just bring in, we've got firepower. We could just bring firepower with us if we're capable of going back in time, and we could take that with us. Because, in Terminator, when they went back in time, they were fully nude. So they couldn't go back in time with clothing. So I don't know if we ever have the capability of going back in time, if we're able to take that with us. And if we did, that would change history. Because what if we destroy that animal? You know what I mean? I mean, obviously they went extinct anyways, but still, I wouldn't want to change history. Jennifer Marie goes, have you not seen Time Traveler's Wife? Apparently time travel is only possible naked. I've read the book too. Yes, true. I forgot about that one, but yeah, that one too. Curse Potato goes, it's weird to think modern birds descended from dinosaurs. It does. That is weird because dinosaurs were huge, probably as big as this room I'm in. Tinkle Tits goes, if they could solve murders from the 60s with DNA, they can clone people from the 60s. D Nice goes, paleontologists giving them long names because they were trying to compensate for something. Joanne goes, can't do time travel without changing anything, just even a ripple. True. It's going to be like Flashpoint. If you guys have seen The Flash. I'm going to read one more article and then we'll open it up. I'll open it up for questions. This article popped up for me. I think it talks to various people that actually investigate Tickle Tits. So what we know would freak everyone out. Meet the detective hunting down the paranormal. This is on The Guardian. It's written by Kyle McNeil. Ghost hunters, Bigfoot trackers, alien investigators, for these spooky sleuths, it's not a matter of believing or not believing. It's just a case of finding the evidence. An iridescent blob to appear in the sky. Natalie Pierce, alien investigator. I was basically what this article is doing. It's going, it's talking about different investigators, like a paranormal investigator, like a Bigfoot investigator, stuff like that. I was working as a nurse when I became interested in the paranormal. After seeing full body apparitions at work, my foray into the paranormal world led me to ufology, and I set up a group called UFO Identified with a fellow enthusiast, Ash Ellis. We wanted to demystify some of the myths and take a genuinely scientific approach, as the UFO community is quick to claim anything as a little gray alien or spaceship. In reality, 99.9% of all the sightings that come through to us are explainable. We cross-reference any reports with weather charts, plane data, and planets. Most of the time, it's an easy jet flight or whatever, but occasionally we can't identify it. We had so many people get in contact to share their experiences. We began to map out sightings, create a database, and hold meetings across the UK to provide a safe place. I've made lifelong friends. We meet for dinner and catch up on life stuff before switching to UFO mode. Two types of aliens are reported. The first is the grays, a typical gray alien with a big head and almond eyes that you see in the movies. The ones in charge are taller and the others are stubbier and shorter. They seem to be the workers. Then there are the Nordic looking beings who appear to be a lot more like humans. Often people describe their experiences as being like a computer simulation and shimmering visuals. Most of the close encounters are traumatic. People report gaps in time, being moved from one place to another, or sometimes being experimented on. It's also difficult dealing with doubters. My family still thinks I'm absolutely crackers, but you learn to get a thick skin. I also work with a group called CE5, which is about actively communicating with what's out there. We do that by meditating and following a set of protocols in small groups, playing sounds to the sky. We've had some great success stories with lights flashing back to us and images caught on camera. Recently, while we're on the motorway toward a site close to Preston, a humongous rugby ball shaped iridescent blob turning on its axis suddenly appeared in the sky. Within 5 seconds, it was gone. When we got to the rest of the group 5 miles away, they were jumping up and down. They had seen, the exact same thing. You always have the thought that maybe tonight we will find something to share with the world. I'm 110% sure the aliens are already here and want to communicate with us. What we need is some disclosure from the government, but I can't see it happening anytime soon, as I think it would rock the foundations of religious belief and obviously freak everyone out. I don't think it's going to freak anybody out. I think people just want answers. There's too many conspiracy theories and speculation out there. I think people just want the truth. Like myself. Loch Ness is just as magical as the monster. Alan McKenna, Loch Ness Lookout. One rainy day when I was 7 years old, I was stuck indoors at my grandparents' house in Edinburgh. I picked up the book with a weird beastie on the front. I thought, what the hell is that? I took it down to my papa and he said, you believe in the Kelpies. He read it out loud and I kept asking him to read it again. It was written by Tim Dinsdale, and it was called The Story of the Loch Ness Monster. A year or so later, I remembered visiting Loch Ness and paddling out. I went too far and plunged under the surface. I was convinced something had dragged me down. I felt cold water shock for the first time. My old man dived in and got me, but since then, I can't swim here. I've now got something called thalassophobia, a fear of deep and dark bodies of water. My obsession with the Loch Ness Monster snowballed from here. I read every book, poured through every blog, and watched every documentary. A few years ago, I set up Loch Ness Exploration, inspired by the original Loch Ness Investigation Bureau of the 60s. I started hosting immersive tours of the Loch Ness Center, telling stories and using a 60-foot hydrophone to hear below the surface. Last year's annual weekender, The Quest, was mental. We were only expecting the Inverness Courier, but the world's media turned up and hundreds of people braved the elements. This year's edition was even more magical. It was about carrying that torch on to the next generation. The loch is just as magical as the monster lurking beneath it. It's sublime, but also threatening. You get overwhelmed with the feeling of dread at the jetty next to the Loch Ness. Your imagination starts running wild. We've had divers who believe it's all BS, who went down there and said they will never do it again. You can't see more than 4 feet in front of you. The lock is so vast it stretches 23 miles, and we're only scratching the surface with computer data to map it out. There's something there. I will never tell anyone exactly what I think. There are different theories like the sturgeon or the catfish or the original plesiosaur. I am butchering that, which I'm sorry to say isn't possible. I don't think there's a clear answer. People try to fish hook you having a debate with loaded questions, but I'm a wee bit over that now and prefer hearing other people's stories and taking them on board. I've been bombarded with abuse and cold callers saying I'm wasting my time, but my answer is always that it's my time. I still love going out there by myself, especially when it's overcast, Nessie weather, I call it, armed with my binoculars, waterproof hydrophone, drones, sandwiches, and a can of earn brew. I'll sit there for hours and hours in silence at peace. Part of me never wants to find out what's under the surface. Heather Wetter goes, Kelpies are cool. She also says, no aliens. I don't want to communicate. No probe. Jennifer Marie goes, what about the green aliens? Exactly. Because I was when they were describing the aliens, I was like, I didn't know about that alien. Or I didn't know there were stubby ones and tall ones. We have a demonic doll called Esther, Kimmy, Jeffrey, and the occult family ghost hunters. I was always a skeptic when it came to anything paranormal, especially with ghosts, but my husband, JP, who has long been a believer, decided to take me to a haunted sleepover for my birthday in 2022. I captured an image of a pink energy that, after enhancing it back at home, revealed a little girl. I was absolutely wowed. It was really Moorish, so much so that after going to a few more events, we set up our own community. I've never thought I'd be on this journey. I'm a psychotherapist and putting my name as a professional to this, but only because it's real. At first, it was just JP and me, but after a while, we visited the Four Crosses in Canuck, a haunted inn, as a family with my daughters, Snow and Pebble. On the way home, Snow asked how many people were in the building with us. I told her it was just us, but she described a man with ragged clothes, a soldier staring at her, and a lady holding a little girl's hand. We never Googled the building before a haunt to avoid the power of suggestion, but we searched it afterwards, and her sightings matched up. Actually, that's actually a good thing. It's better to know nothing about the place you're investigating so you don't like jump to conclusions. I was absolutely ecstatic. I also apologized to her as I realized the imaginary friends she saw as a child that I had long dismissed were actually real. That's when we started to come together as a family and travel across the country. The kids love it. They do it of their own free will, and I want to embrace Snow's gift. We recently converted our garage to turn it into an occult room, a miniature museum of paranormal curios. We have 13 items now, including a demonic doll called Esther. We had all sorts of strange occurrences in our home for a few days before we had a Perspect box made for her. We live the work we do 24/7, and we have a very active house with numerous spirits. It's a normal day to hear bangs, voices, doors move, and the girls waving at people we can't see. We love working with like-minded people, but our mission is to educate the mainstream that the paranormal is very real. Humans used to be so spiritual, but the busy world we're programmed into has taken that away. I've learned so much in this hidden world. People want reassurance that they're not mad. Deborah Hatswell, a Bigfoot tracker. It was May of 1982. I was 15 and bunking off school with a friend. We were playing in Buell Hill Park in Salford, and I saw this movement in the corner of my eye. This thing leant out of the bushes. It was like an ape and a man and been pushed together. It had thick brows, looked Neanderthal, and it was awful. I ran. I began to collect clippings and put ads and papers across the UK to try to find other witnesses. I uncovered old articles reporting on Bigfoot in Britain. Since the 2nd century, people have reported a hairy man in the woods. I started to look for evidence myself. For years, I worked in the shadows. And then in 2006, I had an accident that left me disabled. I set up being believed research research to hear other people's stories, but also to help with investigations. When a report comes in, we liaison with local researchers across the UK who meet witnesses and gather information. Sometimes we look for footprints and hair samples. My work is word of mouth. Often people think, right, I'm not going to phone Deb. She'll know something. We have thousands of witness testimonies. People forget about the human behind the sightings. Some people, like me, have trauma attached to the creature they saw. You can try to run away from the experience, but it will follow you for your entire life until you sit down and speak about it. What Bigfoot actually is remains to be seen. Theories range from an escaped zoo animal to some sort of wild hominid. I've started mapping out the reports because if this is a flesh and blood creature, then there has to be a pattern of movement. There's definitely more than one due to the number of sightings and different appearances. They seem to be intelligent beings. They can smell you coming from miles away, use distraction techniques, and easily hide. The company we have is massively growing, as well as those who want to offload. Others just really enjoy it. They want to go out and investigate and know about all the equipment you can get. For years, people poo-pooed the paranormal, but now everyone's running around with an EMF meter and instrument for measuring electromagnetic fields. I've got a queue of stories that is 18 months long for my weekly podcast, so many people want reassurance that they're not mad. It's important to remember that all lore has an element of truth, but most evidence, even some of the most famous photos, haven't cleared anything up. I don't think we will get an answer in my lifetime. I personally have seen some incredible private videos of a Bigfoot that have never been released due to fear of backlash. I've always say I want to Jane Goodall it. I want to know everything about the creature. They're living on wild food and wild medicines. There's a lot of us humans could learn. I'm trying to teach people how to collect evidence so that we can be taken seriously. For now, I'll still see that face every day. Chris goes, stubby aliens work for me. I can look them in the eye. Curious Potato says DNA says lots of eels and they can grow big. I'll read one more and then we'll open it up. I think this is the last one. Oh, this is the last one. You can feel eyes watching you, Gary Ridley, Panther Pursuer. When I'm out, I'm not working as a builder. I'm an independent big cat researcher. I don't claim to be an expert, but I'm active in the field. For the past 15 years, I've been corroborating eyewitness sightings and laying camera traps as part of a nationwide online alien big cat network. The press likes to call us the Camouflage Brigade, but I think I'm just a normal guy. I do look good in camo, though. I've always been fascinated by big cats. I've had dreams about them since my childhood. I now believe it's a distant, instinctive memory of when we were humanoids and were preyed on by leopards. I first learned that there may be big cats in the wild in the UK back in the early 70s. My dad told me that the army was out trying to shoot a mountain lion that had been seen in our area. Then, following a sighting that my father-in-law had in Guildford in the early 2000s, I took an interest and joined the Big Cats in Britain groups online. I was their survey rep until the original platform was closed down to infighting. I then started my own website, Surrey Panther Watch. I've met a few like-minded souls in the Camo Brigade, and I'm in contact daily with some of them on the Big Cat forums, but I'm mostly a lone wolf. When I'm out in the fields or in the woods or sitting among the brambles, I can become at one with the wildlife. I'll find a place that overlooks a meadow or a stream and just sit for what seems like hours watching and listening for any signs that a predator might be in the area, like hunters of the past. I don't feel in any real danger, as I'm sure we're not on the menu. So far, I haven't had any unsettling moments when the forest goes deadly quiet and you could feel eyes are watching you. I personally never seen a big cat in the UK, caught one on camera, or witnessed any direct proof of their presence. The closest I've got is deer carcasses, but I've received hundreds of eyewitnesses' reports and pieces of evidence, and I do believe that leopards and pumas roam out there somewhere. The most convincing are from freedom of information requests made to the police. People don't generally phone up and lie as it's criminal offense, so I tend to believe them. Some suggest there is a supernatural element to these sightings, but that doesn't hold sway with them. I guess I do all of this out of a sense of morbid fascination. I'd be truly terrified to come face to face with one while I'm out looking. I'm calling for a national survey to establish exactly what people are seeing. People have a right to know that they may encounter a leopard when going for a walk in the countryside. So that's a little insight of people, of investigators and what they do. Julissa goes, I think Bigfoot is a fun lore, but I don't believe they exist. Jennifer Marie goes, are we really expected to believe creatures the size of Bigfoot aren't really readily known and confirmed with all our current technology? Yeah, okay. I agree with that one. I mean, come on. We've got like some of the best technology now. Like someone should have spotted it. Someone should have spotted it and said, look, this confirms it's a being. But I mean, some people, there's still going to be people that are going to say, nah, that's not real. Curious Potato goes, I think eels can grow to a huge size. Heather Whatever goes, we have bobcats and my daughter and son saw mountain lions at 2 different times. I know we have in my area, believe it or not, we have deer. Allegedly there's mountain lions, but I have not seen one. Thank you, Heather Whatever, for your PayPal. Hearts for Heather Whatever, guys. Thank you, Heather Whatever. I appreciate that. Jennifer Murray goes, they can technically find a needle in a haystack, but we can't find Bigfoot. True. True. You make a point, Jennifer Marie. Panda Bear goes, we have mountain lions in our area besides bears. I guess that gentleman wants to prove that there's big cats in London. I know we have big cats here, so it seems strange reading that here in the States and in Canada. I'm sure there's big cats too. So it's kind of weird to hear that. And I'm like, we have big cats. Like, why are you? Chris is asking, do I own and wear Crocs? Yes, I do. That's all I wear, actually. I wear those everywhere. They are comfortable. If I could work in them, I would work in them. But people don't, they don't let you work in them. I guess nurses can work in them because they have work shoes ones, but Dusty goes, we have lots of eels in Hawaii. They live in the rocks along the coast, and I used to take my son to feed them along a water line from a Queen's Bath to the ocean at a favorite beach here. Oh, that's cool. Panda Bear goes, we live near the forest and the mountains out in the countryside. Lisa Boo goes, yeah, there's lots of big cats here, cougars, etc. Chris goes, they are a new favorite of mine. They are comfortable, Chris. You will not regret it. You will not. All right, guys, I'm going to open it up for questions. I'll give you a few more minutes to guess where Skeleduck may be because I do not see him. I think he got covered. Something fell and he got covered behind it. Heather, whatever. I've never tried Crocs. I thought they looked like blister makers to me. I always wear mine with socks. When I wear them without socks, I'll get like a rub blister. But I've worn them with, I wear them everywhere. Like with socks, I'll go to like a festival. I'll walk Vegas in them. Never had a problem. Like, and then my feet can breathe too. So I never get overheated. Like when it's super hot, like, I mean, you still get hot, but it's not like if you were wearing heavy shoes. I just prefer wearing them everywhere. Heather whatever spotted Hello Kitty mummy. I like Hello Kitty. And I have little on my Crocs. I have I would show you my Crocs, but they're dirty. I have the little charms that you can put on. All of mine are horror related. Tinkle Tits goes, I love inserts or insoles in shoes for festivals, gel things you put in your shoes so you don't die. Curious Potato goes, one last scary story. Actually, I don't have a scary story because I went through all my articles. I went through all my articles for tonight. So next time. All right, guys, keep the questions going. I'll stay on for another few more minutes. No, Dusty, you're cold. Dusty goes, I see a white speck behind the mic junction. Is that the duck? No. It's like behind me in that general area. Matthew goes, in the Twisted Burning Wreck, it looks like this. Muhaha. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. Great show, Lisa. Like, seriously, I can't. Yeah, it fell. He's covered. Yeah, my right. No, because my right, I don't know if I'm backwards on yours, but it is on my right or my left. Mark, yeah, it is. Julissa, you're warm. She said right. So right. I mean, this is my right, but on screen, I don't know because I'm backwards here. Because on screen, this looks like my right one. So it's where I'm pointing. It's in that general area on this side because I don't know if I'm backwards on you because it's backwards on me. Yes, he did. He hit himself like he was showing literally when I started the stream. Panda Bear goes, her left and our right. Thank you. My other right. So it's above this year, which is it's my left hand, but it's right on the screen. All right, Carol, you win. She got it. Carol says behind the face mask. Skeleduck was sticking out behind the mask from the strangers, and the mask fell. So now he's covered, but he was sticking out when I first started the stream. His nose was sticking out. So, Carol, you won. It is behind the face mask. So it's behind the mask from the strangers. He was, I swear to God, when I started the stream, he was showing, but now he's not. Wicca lights my path. 10 years ago, I was overnight security at a cement plant. While on foot patrol, I saw a dog, but seconds later, I saw a thin man in the same place. The plant was surrounded with fencing. Oh, that is crazy. Ha! Carol goes, you could see the white in the eye, so he's still visible. Now, yeah, you're right. You can. He's still technically visible, but I wanted to, because he was completely covered, I wanted to give you a clue. That Wicca, that would have scared the crap out of me, though, if I saw that. All right, guys, any last minute questions before I end the stream? And again, Skeleduck is underneath the mask from the strangers. You could he's technically in the screen because you could see it in the eye. You could see him in the eye. So he's right there, just for those that missed. He is underneath the mask of the strangers. He's technically visible, so technically I didn't have to give you guys a hint, but I didn't see that. Jennifer Murray's going, what is Skeleduck dressing up for Halloween? I don't know. Maybe I'll if I can find mini bunny ears or something, I'll put bunny ears on them. Thank you, Carol. Good stream. Make sure I didn't forget anybody real quick. All right, guys, I am going to end the stream here. Thank you for joining me on this edition of Grayson Report. Catch us on the next one, which will be Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Be there, be squared, stay spooky, guys. Sweet nightmares, and I hope you guys had a great weekend and a great rest of the week. Good night, guys, and thank you. You guys are awesome. Good night, guys.